Good evening and welcome to another edition of 11th House Radio in the live stream. I'm trying to sync up with the video tonight and I'm having a bit of a challenge. I'm working on a new system. So I may have to just go with the non-audio. What I'm going to try to do here is, since we're working, here we go, tonight, here it is, yes. And I'm having a bit of a challenge. I'm working on a new system. So I may have to just go with the non-audio. What I'm going to try to do here is, since we're working, here we go, tonight, here it is, yes. All right, so I decided to turn my audio down so I don't have to hear myself. So we've got a stream going on, and I'm actually using a new computer, and I've got a whole set up. So we got one person watching. Thanks for tuning in. Let me just check my camera here. Hold on one second. Let me go into FaceTime. See what happens here. Okay. I'm on. Camera's working. See if I can get it back here. Okay, for some reason, let me just see. Let me try to get this back in. Okay, we've got the recording settings. Let me get in the settings. So I appreciate your patience. Go into the video settings. Base canvas, but keep your video is currently active. Please turn off any outputs to change video settings. Okay, let's do this. Let's force quit. Now we're good. So again, I'm working on, I'm trying to bring a little more production value to our experiences here, so that I can share with you some, because the video is currently active. I'm sure if I need to change video settings. Let me just look at this. That's good. Look at this. Okay. All right. So we're just going to continue to kind of roll without the video tonight. So it's just going to be like a radio show as I continue to trim what's happening here with the live streams on Sunday nights, where all 5 of you are going to be able to get some information. So here we go. Why don't we just start off with this week and get into this week's planets, and then we're going to get into some charts tonight. I've got 3 charts lined up for us, and all 3 of them are fairly interesting, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to grab them. I don't think we'll have an issue with that. So let's get into where we are astrologically. We've got the moon in Sagittarius tonight, by the way, in the final degrees. And then we're going to start off with, we're going to basically start the week right at the anaretic degree of Sagittarius. We're going to talk a little more about the anaretic degree tonight, because it's a very interesting degree, and try to glean some more insights. Clearly the sun is at 29 degrees Pisces, and we're right on the cusp of the change from Pisces to Aries, and we're looking at, of course, the birth of the astrological new year. So springtime is a really powerful time in terms of the chart, in terms of the cardinal points of the chart, in terms of making fresh starts in your life based on the astrology of Ptolemy. This is a great time. So if you wanted to create or co-create a new direction in your life, if you feel like you've been kind of floundering, hanging on, and the final degrees of Pisces are, I think, some of the more difficult degrees of the zodiac. Because just like when a sign starts and there's that 0 degree energy, okay, it is the most potent expression of that sign. when we get to 29 Pisces, we are at the end of the zodiac. The zodiac itself is running out of steam. It is getting ready to dissolve into what Dane Rudyard called a phase of multi-unity. Let me just turn the volume down a little bit more because I can still hear myself. A phase of multi-unity. So when we're out here suspended at degree 27, 28, 29, they're especially at 27 and 28. Now, what's really interesting is if we look at Trump's visit to Merkel, or with Merkel, it took place during the 27th and 28th degrees of Pisces. And one of the things that came out of the meeting between Trump and Merkel was that there was absolutely no resolution, or there was no Donald Trump moment, let's put it that way, when it came to the refugees or the immigrants or the terrorists, depending upon who you are kind of ascribing to, or where your political or reality switch is in your life. When I was back at Gaiam, one of my shows on the 11th house was looking at both Neptune in Pisces and Chiron in Pisces. And I began to look at the refugee crisis. So this was in 2013. So this was 4 years ago. And at that time, we were looking at it in terms of a humanitarian crisis. Now, the images that we were being given were, of course, a flotilla or flotillas of people who were basically stacked like pieces of meat in these inflatable plastic boats. And they gave us a real sense of the human drama, which of course at the beginning of any kind of crisis, that moment in time, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the Boston City Massacre bombing, whatever it is, it's that initial burst which conditions individuals through traumatic entrainment. So when we saw what was happening with the refugee crisis at that time, during Neptune in Pisces and Chiron in Pisces, and I think they were quite close then. We were dealing with Neptune-Chiron conjunctions. Number one, clearly it was a visceral, visible sense that this was a humanitarian crisis that was crossing a great distance over water. So it was Neptunian. So we have two levels of Neptune and Pisces. We have the humanitarian piece, and we have the Neptunian physical piece. Now, also during that time, if you look at some of the symbolism of that time, that there was an incredible amount of Poseidon and Neptunian symbolism. Now, we can look at these things in retrospect, and we can begin to make more sense of it in sort of our rearview mirror in some ways. Because if the world is based on symbolic gestures and the activation of symbolic powers, then what we were seeing during that time was almost like an activation of the Poseidon or the Neptunian energy that would cast a spell or an enchantment or an entrainment across the planet, so that this whole idea of people who are being processed and then projected into the screens of our reality were victims and needed our support in any way, shape that's possible. I mean, this is, to me now, I can piece together a lot of the Poseidon imagery. Okay, let me see if I can do this in real time. And I apologize for the lack of video tonight. I'm working on a new computer. I've got a new set, new lights, and we're gonna nail this sucker at some point here so that everybody's getting what they need. So let's go back in time and let me see if I can just quickly grab some images and see if I can throw them up there, okay? Let's look at the images for Malaysia Airlines, okay? Let's look at the images for Malaysia Airlines. Malaysia Airlines. And let's look at the images. And now remember, we had a crisis of 2 flights with Malaysia Airlines. And I could spend the whole show on those 2 flights. Let's go back and let's look at here we go. Let's see if we can find a good one. All right, this is probably about as good as we can find. I'm going to throw this up there, and I'm going to pull this up on the screen. And I'm going to hope that we can get some good imagery happening here. So let's go into let's add an image. If it doesn't have to compete with me, it'll make the image much clearer. So I'm going to just grab this, and I'm going to show you one example of the Neptunian and the Poseidon imagery that we were dealing with during, let's go to the desktop, just before the onset of the what we call the refugee crisis or the migrant crisis. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to give you guys images tonight so you can feast on images. You don't have to see me. All right, so what do we have here? Look at the tail of the Malaysia Airlines jetliner. This is clearly a scepter. This is clearly a scepter. And this was one of a number of scepters that were very prominent. It had been very prominent since, roughly around, I think the Poseidon imagery, the Neptunian imagery came in around 2013. So we have Malaysia flights. It was Air 350, wasn't it? Air Malaysia. Let's do this. I think it's 350 Malaysia. So let's do this. Let's see. Disaster. Sorry, this is all. I'm doing this on the fly, which is what I do a lot of things with my Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So let's just go to the. This was Malaysia, Air Malaysia, flight 370. Now remember, this disappeared over what? Water. It did not disappear over land. It didn't disappear over land at all. So this is, again, sort of this double Neptunian kind of reinforcement. Now, very early on, there was also this was a crash of an Italian liner, Italian ocean liner. Let's do this. So we had an Italian ocean liner. Let's see, this goes back to 2000. This was the Costa Concordia. The Costa Concordia. And again, there was almost as if there were a number of disasters and tragedies that were happening at sea, in the ocean. Of course, we had the explosion of the Macondo well in the Gulf of Mexico, and that was yet another one. But again, we're trying to stick with the imagery and the Neptunian, Poseidon imagery, because I think we can get a sense as to what's happening with the imagery, the prevalent imagery, in what we're about to experience. And clearly it's also quite astrological as well. Another interesting image of the Poseidon or the Neptunian imagery comes from the Museum of the World Trade Center. This is the memorial. It's like the Holocaust memorial of the World Trade Center. Let me see if we can find this. So this is, let's see, 9/11 Memorial. I'm going to show you here, this is very interesting. You're going to see the Poseidon and the Neptunian imagery here, if I can just find this. And what they did is they actually used these girders from the inside of the World Trade Center, and they actually look like scepters. And they put them on the inside of the new installation. And it's part of a quote unquote artistic experience. But even this was being literally kind of resurrected from the rubble, which was, there's a total black cube too. There's a major black cube right at the center of the memory pool of the World Trade Center Memorial. That's clear. We've seen this. We've known this for a while. And again, what is it? It's submerged in water. It is submerged in water. And I think if you do the math, that there's a really interesting mathematical correlation with Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And again, if we kind of understand this symbolism, we can see where this kind of rush in this diaspora of quote unquote immigrants coming from the Muslim world, it was all pre-coded in a lot of the symbolism that was taking place during that time. If you go back and you look at some of the material that I was working with around 2012, actually around 2011, 2012, there was an incredible amount of ISIS imagery. Let me see if I can find some of these, but these are really kind of amazing. Hold on, let me just go, let me see, 9/11 Memorial, inside, structures. Let's look at this, because you need to see these. Let me see if I can find them. Yeah, here they are. Yeah, I'm going to pull this up here. You'll see this. This is really interesting. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to add another image. And image 2. So check this out. Here we go. Let's move this all the way across. Let's move this here. And actually, what do we have? Do you see those? Yeah, they look like salad forks. These were part of the girders that were inside. These were the things. These were the structures that were holding up part of the World Trade Center. And of course, we don't just get one. We get two, which is right in alignment with the notion of duality and Jacob and Boaz, and they're the scepters, they're the tridents. So we have the tridents that are now memorialized, and if we look at Neptune and Pisces, we're looking at the humanitarian cause, we're looking at deception, we're looking at the manipulation of Christian values, which are also part of Neptune in the Piscean melodrama. And we're also looking at victimization in many ways. Let me go back. Let me cut image 1. Let me just get out of here. Yes. Okay. So here, do you see them? Right here. So we have more Neptunian, more Poseidon scepter energy. Now there was another. Let's go to the ISIS imagery and symbolism. Let's see, it was Time Magazine. Here, this will be even easier. I could just access my own website. So let's look at this. Robert Phoenix ISIS. See, I can go to my, because I have all this stuff on my website. And I don't have to cruise around You know, I'm going to show you. I'll just grab this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And come on, let's do this. Here we go. Now this is from. Here it is. I love this image. Love this image. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to get rid of this Poseidon imagery, okay? Because I want to have a clear shot at what I'm bringing next. So let's get rid of this. Okay. So here we go. I'm adding. Okay, so I'm going to make this bigger. Hopefully the resolution will be bigger. Let me see if I can do this. So I was very hip to this, and this is back in 2014. This was 3 years ago, before we had the mad ISIS crush. So here we have Time magazine, and the headline here is, "Are you mom enough?" So here you have this woman who is suckling this young man. Now we don't even know if this is her son, okay? Because what woman would actually do this? Now look at the boy. He's wearing army fatigues. Army fatigues. Now he could have been wearing, I don't know, gym shorts or blue jeans or suspenders, but he's wearing army pants. And here we have these two women who were basically kicked out of the army because they were breastfeeding their children while they were stationed, right? So you have the under boob, which was very prevalent at that time, right? The under boob shot. We have the twins, of course. It's always got to be twins. And then we have a young woman who's dressed in red. Okay, well, that's interesting. We have your young lady in red here. And of course, this is Isis, who is considered to be the world mother. And there's another sort of depiction of Isis. This is an older one, but I'll show you anyway. And so here we have the generation of symbols. And the generation of the symbols almost become the, how do I say this? It's not like it's being predictive in terms of its programming, although there is some of it. And by the way, this is Taurus symbolism. ISIS is Taurus symbolism. But it's predictive programming, but there's also a sense of what I would call psychic driving. And if you're familiar with Ewing Cameron is one of the key figures in North America when it comes to programming and the relationship to what we would call MK Ultra. He was at McGill University in Montreal, and what he was pioneering was extreme shock, psychic driving, overwhelming the individual with information and stimuli and trauma triggers, so that the individual could be cracked open like a walnut shell, and then something new could be inserted inside of it. And so what I believe that these events, even though they're subtle, and there are more, what they begin to compress as, it's a form of momentum, psychocultural momentum. Let me show you something else from that period in time that was also happening. There was a TV show, which is still going on. It's still popular, and you can watch it on the Comedy Channel, or I think it's Comedy Channel, and I'll show you here. It is. You'll like this. You'll like this, boys and girls. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. All right, let me show you this. Before I show you that, I want to show you one more piece of imagery that's related to ISIS. You'll get a kick out of this one. If you haven't seen this one, you'll get a kick out of this one. So we're going to get rid of this. All right, check this out. This is also from the same post that I put up from 2014, 3 years ago. So we're going to do this and browse it. So check this out. Now, some people would say that this is a blasphemy, but if you're into astrotheology, you'll get this, right? Perhaps this is just universal here. But here's Isis on the left, and here's Mother Mary on the right, and there's this sort of, dualistic veneration. Maybe Mary is a myth. I don't believe Mary's a myth, but clearly there is this Campbell-esque kind of cross-cultural archetypalization. And some people might just say, hey, astrotheologically, Mary and Jesus just really don't exist, and everything just stems from Egypt. I mean, there can be a case made for that. But here we have, again, this interesting confluence of symbolism with Mary and Isis. Now, okay, let me show you one more image that was happening right around during that time, where this whole notion of ISIS was getting branded and imprinted in our head. Let me show you one more. Okay, this is from the TV show Archer. And it's an interesting TV show because the head of ISIS is Archer's mother. She's the head. And in many ways, she is still sort of suckling Archer. Of course, Archer is the symbol of Sagittarius and dealing with foreign involvement. All you flat earthers out there would love this photo. Now, this show is still happening. It's still on, I believe, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network. I think it bounces, but mostly Comedy Central. But again, here we go. This was another kind of series of drivers that were happening. And what are we talking about here? We're talking about, and I know it's comedy, and I know it's cartoon, but there's also some very interesting themes in Archer. One of the themes in Archer is that it's, they've got cell phones, and so clearly they can talk on their cell phones, and yet there's kind of a Cold War theme going on inside of Archer as well with the Russians. So you have to ask yourself, is that just kind of coincidental, or is that another kind of a form of psychic driving, just like The Americans is another form of psychic driving? We know that show on Showtime. It's not Showtime, but Amazon. So there's some really interesting things happening as a prelude to either a movement or a series of events. So we have the Neptunian, the Piscean imagery, and there's more. There was one where, what was it? Maserati was involved, and it was the Maserati symbol. God, it'll come to me. And then we have this ISIS. And when you go to like the World Trade Center, or at least the One World Freedom Tower, or whatever it's called, you have the Neptunian Poseidon imagery with the two scepters, which were pulled out of buildings 1 and 2. And then you have the black cube, the black hypercube,
which is, if you scale it out, is a black hyperdimensional cube. That is the replica of the Kaaba in Mecca, and it's covered by water. It's covered by this kind of Piscean medium, and of course it's relatively close to water as well. So these were two events that were going on sort of simultaneously. There was this kind of run up with this Isis imagery, and then there was this run up with this Neptunian, Poseidian sort of relationship with victimization and Christianity, and moving across the oceans. At any time you have like groups of people that have these kind of heroic journeys or voyages across the ocean, what it does is it stimulates our imagination. It stimulates our unconscious. This is exactly what occurs. Like, remember the story about Elian Gonzalez, the young Cuban boy who made it to the United States after his raft was sunk at sea and lost his mother, and essentially rescued by dolphins or something like that, and moved. I mean, it's these kinds of stories that, oh my God, and they grab us. They grab our imagination. They grab our great capacity for compassion. That's one of the things about humanity that's unfortunate, is our compassion has been turned against us as a weapon. And a lot of people don't understand this. It's a soft weapon. And then what happens to Elian Gonzalez? And I know this is not quite astrology. We're going to get to astrology tonight. But these are important things to understand in terms of how reality is scripted, and and how we are essentially massaged. We're massaged by the early events of what takes place. So I'm going to show you this picture. And remember, heart-wrenching story. He lost his mother and everybody else on this boat, fleeing the evil Castro, right? Hold on, come on. Let me get this back. All right. So he was fleeing the evil Castro. And it got our attention. It's like, oh my God, the poor boy. And then you throw in the dolphin story. And it just becomes like Flipper on steroids, right? And then how does it end? It ends like this. This is how it ends. It ends in trauma. It ends in a closet. Hold on. So it starts with the heart-wrenching story. Traveling across water. Now, Neptune was not in Pisces then, but I'm referencing this because when we hear these stories about water, like the guy that Chelsea, what's his name, who landed the jetliner in Hudson Bay, I mean, that really got our attention because it was in water. And water is a natural conduit to get right into our emotional body. So here we go. It starts. Now, this is a very strange rifle. I never really paid attention to this rifle before. It's a very odd rifle. But it starts in this. I think this photo might even be staged. It could be staged. And it doesn't really matter whether it's staged or not, because this is the photo that made it across. I mean, I guess it does matter because there's manipulation, but this is the photo that made it across all the news wires. And it ends in tragedy. It starts in Flipper on steroids and ends in tragedy. And by the way, this was happening at the same time, right around as when the incident at Waco took place, the Branch Davidians. A lot of people say it didn't happen either. But even if it didn't happen, you have to understand what the psychic circumstances around it are. Whether it happened or not, the impact was still the same. Now, I believe it happened. And I believe it happened because of when it took place, which was the feast days of Molech, where they actually, burned children. Of course, they burned children. It's an interesting photo. It's it's dated, but it's part of this process that I wanted to share with you guys. Let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of this guy right here. Yeah, okay, let's get rid of that. All right. Let me give you an image of the refugees. Let's go refugees and raft. I mean, you've seen the photos. Let me see if I can find you a good one. Here's a great one right here. All right, this is a Getty image, but they're not going to mind me using this. Now, this is how our emotions are played. And I'll show you how it works. Get back over here. This is how we are manipulated every single day of our life. And during these times with Neptune and Pisces, and Chiron and Pisces, the manipulation is ubiquitous. It is across so many different levels. All right, so here we go. This is how we are manipulated, okay? Here's what we see. We see the raft in the background. We see the Red Cross helpers. By the way, the Red Cross, this comes right out of the Knights Templars. The Red Cross comes right out of the Knights Templars, okay? So here we have, again, the ocean behind us. And the ocean is this sympathetic carrier. The ocean holds our collective memory, just like the 12th house holds our collective memory. The ocean is the amniosis of gnosis. And what do we see here? Well, we see, here's a man who, in my estimation, is rather Semitic looking, okay? And we can trust him. We can trust him. He's, in many ways, like this fellow here, or this fellow here, or maybe this fellow back here, or this fellow here. The difference is that he's wearing a Red Cross jacket. And here's the cross right there. Gives him some legitimacy, right? And we see this woman, oh my God, the agony. And she's got the burqa. Oh my God, the agony. She needs saving. Over here, we have this woman. And where did we see that image before? Where did we see that image? By the way, this kid looks like he's about, 110 pounds. 110 pounds. And she's just like carrying him like he's like a doll. There's no straining there. She's just got him gently. And of course, she's European. And she's just slightly ahead of this fellow right here. So now we know that we can trust him and people that are physically kind of similar. Certainly we can trust her. Remember what we saw with Mary and Isis? Of course, it's the same imagery. And it's playing upon this Neptunian sense of compassion. This is what we've had with Neptune and Pisces. It's quite interesting. This looks even a bit staged in some ways. She may not look staged, but she could be. This whole thing might be completely staged, by the way. They could be total actors. And she doesn't even look like she's carrying them. You put your hands out, and we'll stick a kid in there. And what's also interesting about this photo is her hand. Do you see where her hand is right here? Like she's supposed to be, like this glove looks like it's just stuck right there on him. Now for that hand to be there, her arm starts here and would have to go all the way around. All the way. That is a long hand. That is a very, very long hand. She must have some incredible powers. Now look at what this woman is doing, okay? She's connecting both of these people, if she's even there. You look at this leg. What is this? This is very bizarre. Maybe her leg shrunk during the arduous journey. This is what salt water does. It shrinks your leg. But I bet you she got a nice new one in Germany. So you see, she's connecting both this man and this woman. She's connecting the two worlds. She's connecting sort of the pride of the Semitic culture and also the pride of Northern Europe. This virginal woman who will do anything to help this young man. And this woman, through her agony, Holbein couldn't have painted this any better. This woman, through her agony, brings you into the picture. Most people are good people when they see something like this. They're like, wow, look at that. These poor people. They lost their homes. Things were blown up. They were eating each other. They were eating sand. And now, by the way, this kid does not look like he's malnourished. That kid doesn't look like he's missed a meal in a couple of years. She's a little, softig as well. So, but this is how these things are set up. And we started to get a lot of this imagery right around 2013. Now, that's 2 years after Fukushima. Again, a lot of people think Fukushima is a hoax. Reality's up for grabs. Neptune and Pisces, Chiron and Pisces, reality is up for grabs. This is just one image. Now, this is a Getty image. So this image went out to all kinds of magazines, news services. Interesting, huh? Let's see if we can find another one that is very Piscean and Neptunian. Let me see if we can find one more. Okay, that one was a great one, because that really illustrated what we were looking for. We were trying to, let's see. And by the way, what they did is they put the women and children first on that photo. You see that? They put them first. Because that was kind of the idea that they were going to push. Oh my God, it's women, it's children. And really, it's 95% men. This is what's happened. So we were involved in a very Neptunian, very Piscean, bait and switchian kind of moment in time. Now, why is my computer working? Okay, we've got that. Let me get to this other image. You'll find this one to be interesting. It's a bit small. Hold on. Let
me see. Hold on. I'm just trying to find one that we all kind of, like a kind of ubiquitous image that we were seeing at that time. Now, I'm not saying there's not tragedy. I'm not trying to be, a cold-hearted curmudgeon. I'm just telling you that there was a huge amount of manipulation that was taking place in 2013, and this was the time when Neptune and Chiron were actually much closer than they are now. And it's through that manipulation that we have been programmed, particularly in Northern Europe, to accept this tidal wave of immigrants, tidal wave of refugees. Okay, so let me show you another image, which is probably a lot truer than the last image I just shared with you, which was a public relations image, a very Neptunian, Piscean piece of propaganda, really is what it is. All right, let's load this up. And I'll show you what the reality is. So you saw the Piscean Neptunian projection. I'll show you the Virgoan reality. Let's get into some true discernment here. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. Cancel. That was the last one. I hope you guys are enjoying this time, because I'm going full on ad lib and allowing just to be guided here tonight through this process, which I think is a process. All right, here we go. Here's the image. This is more true to the image, because what we have here is the more correct proportional scale of who is coming ashore. All right, here we go. Man, 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 man. This guy, man, of course, boy, man. They're all males. They're all males. So what we saw with the wonderful Getty photo of those heroic Red Cross workers, the Knights Templar workers, that was pure propaganda. And more than pure propaganda, again, from an astrological perspective, playing upon the symbols of Neptune and the energies of Neptune and Pisces, Chiron and Pisces, the wound, coming to the rescue, coming to the aid of those less fortunate, plain and simple. And here we are, we're at the final degrees of Pisces, the 29th degree. The end of the astrological new year is upon us. It's an interesting symbol, that 29th degree, as are all anaretic numbers. It's fascinating that people that are born on the 22nd generally get that anaretic degree. It's kind of a curse. It's like you get the master number 20. Oh boy, you're born on the 22nd. Isn't that great? No, born with 29 degree Virgo. It's not fun. I make all these plans and I switch them at the last moment. It's very difficult, especially in the mutable signs. 29 degrees anaretic in a fixed sign, I think, is probably better than 29 degrees in a mutable sign. So let's go over what the 29th degree is. It's the anaretic degree. N-A-A-N-A-R-E-T-I-C. Anaretic. And the star is collapsing. The sign is collapsing. It is soon to become the energy which creates a black hole and then a brand new star. Out of the death of the 29th degree, a new star is born.
correct? And so at the 29th degree, everything has lost its energy. Everything has lost its power, its oomph. It does not have the crazed and kind of radical fluorescence, is always what I call it, of the 27th and the 28th degree, which is the super pulsing quasar, right? It's the supernova of the sign. 27, 28 goes fluorescence. And then 29, it goes dark, just a bit of light. But what happens with people that are born on that anaretic degree, that anaretic degree in their chart or their progress chart, it's especially important with the moon in the progress chart. Very, very important with the moon in the progress chart. What happens is you can have the person have all these great plans planned out, and it's going to go in this direction, this direction, this direction, and then all of a sudden, don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. I'm done. Or they could be in this place where I'm done, and then they impulsively say, I'm going to go do this. Especially in relationships and life situations. So if you know somebody that has a 29 degree sun or 29 degree rising sign, a 29 degree moon, 29 degree Mercury, the outer planets at 29 degrees, I don't think are as critical. They're not. But the inner planets at 29 degrees, take note. And it's difficult to deal with. And I'll be straight up. If you're in a relationship with somebody and they have a 29 degree sun or a 29 degree Venus or a 29 degree moon, very difficult because you're dealing with a personality. Changeable. The other thing with the 29th degree is that you just want to get off that degree. Like I've got that 29 degree Virgo sun, and I just want to go be a Libra. We're hang out, have a relationship, beautiful relationship, beauty, eat good food, listen to music, talk art, talk culture. That's all the Libran stuff. But I can't, because that 29 degree Virgo says, hey, Robert, it's 10 o'clock at night. You got in late tonight, go do your show. Okay, I'm going to do my show. That's when you stick with that degree. And it's difficult because it feels like you've got a mission, that you have a mission to accomplish, and it's very difficult to advance towards the next sign. And it's just the way it is. Once you own the mission, it gets a little bit easier, but not always. Okay, let's look at something else tonight, shall we? There's about 3 people born on the 20th that I want to bring to attention. We're going to look at their charts. Let's do this instead. I'm gonna get rid of this image. I like this. I like playing with the images. It's good stuff. It keeps you occupied. It keeps me occupied, and it gives you some visuals. Let me see if I can do this. See if I can grab this. I hope I can. Really hope I can. I just wanted to talk about the signs of where we are. Okay, why don't I just do this? I'm just going to go through. We're at 29 degrees Pisces, which I've been talking about. I've been talking about the anaretic degree. And so let's just say tomorrow, for the case of argument, because we really want to get to Aries. We all want a fresh start. But there's unfinished business with 29 degrees Pisces. What is that unfinished business? What is that unfinished business for you? What is that unfinished business for the world in some ways? Now, we're going to go through this every single year. We're going to get that 29th degree of Pisces. It's a critical phase. I personally think that it is a reminder in some ways that we're at the end. We are at the final degrees and stages of this historical thread. That what started really in 0 AD or 1 AD, and what started on the first day of 1900, those stories are coming to a conclusion in many ways. Now, from the 2,000-year-old story, it is the end of the Piscean Age. This is when the Piscean Age started. This is when we had the life and times of Sananda Manuel and self-sacrifice and the fish imagery, the fisherman, water into wine, very Piscean elements, born of the Virgin, under the sign of Virgo, compassion, empathy, surrender, turning the other cheek, poverty. It's a big one. It's a big one from the Piscean Age, it's poverty. Because money changes everything. That story's coming to an end. Now, I'm not saying that is the end of the energy and the symbolism of Sananda Manuel, which I do believe lives on in the hearts and minds of men and women, and is one of the great teachers of this planet, if not the greatest teacher ever to set foot. And yes, I believe he set foot here. Okay. But it is the end of the materialization and the promotion of Christianity. This is true. This is true. This is what I was talking about on the show on Friday. In case you missed it, I had two of them. It was kind of a strange set of circumstances. Wow. Anyway, what I was talking about was how Islam has been chosen to be the new world religion. Now, it is one of the Abrahamic faiths. Comes out of the Fertile Crescent. It comes out of the Levant. So it has a relationship with the other two Abrahamic faiths, namely Christianity and Judaism. Of course, Muhammad got his vision in a cave from the archangel Gabriel, right? I mean, this is how it all went down. Gabriel gave him Islam. It sounds a lot, to me, it really sounds a lot like the birth of Mormonism and John Smith and the angel who gave him the vision of the great book of Mormon, right? But we're at the end times for Christianity because the aggressive promotion of Islam as the new world religion, it is a Piscean faith. Don't get me wrong, but the age of Pisces as we've known it, that's, they're trying to wind that down. Back when we looked at the crash of the Costa Concordia, to me, that was really one of those events that was more than just the crash of a ocean liner. It was the symbolization of the crash or the end of Christianity. And so clearly here we are. I mean, it's not cool to talk about. It's not cool to profess your faith. If you get on a prayer rug in a school, boy, they'll leave you alone. But you start praying the 10 Commandments in class, and they'll put you in the principal's office. And that's the truth. And so part of this whole end of the Piscean Age, with this Neptunian energy and it's a sea change in terms of belief and faith. And so Islam has been tabbed as the New World Religion. It is going to be used as a vehicle for control. It's a theocratic religious vehicle for control. It's the ultimate vehicle for theocratic rule. Way better. They took that away from the Pope in 1966 with Vatican II. It's way better than that. Because, man, there are some strict guidelines you got to abide by. So that's taking place. Now, some people believe that as a result of the end or the 29th degree of the Piscean age, theoretically it would be the next age would be Aries, but the precession of the equinox takes us into Aquarius. And some of you may know that I've kind of decoded Aquarius as being Aqua Aries, which is the combination of the age of Aries and the age of Pisces, or Aries and Pisces, Aqua Aries. But that's another sort of trip down a synaptical labyrinth. But this is where we're going. Everything is moving in a clockwise fashion, not a counterclockwise fashion like the great wheel in heaven. So we're headed towards Aquarius, and people have asked me, well, when is the age of Aquarius start? When's it going to start? When's it going to start? Well, some people believe it's when Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius. Quite possibly. We're going to have the South Node coming up here very shortly in Aquarius, and I think we'll see the dark side of Aquarius. I think we'll see the dark side of humanitarianism. And what happens? Because Aquarius is the masses. And when the masses are in a state of distended representation, then we're going to see a very, very different version of that kind of Aquarian, sort of Piscean need to, because the Piscean emphasis or the Piscean emotionality is the key, right? It is the key that unlocks the human heart. It is the key that unlocks empathy. It is the key that unlocks compassion. It's the key that unlocks suffering. And Aquarius is the socialization of that. It is the socialization of that. And so what we'll see here through the South Node in Aquarius, because we're just coming through the South Node of Pisces, again, more Pisces, right? But it is a vulnerable Pisces. It is a weak Pisces. It is not a strong Pisces. What we should have been doing during the nodes in Virgo and Pisces was using more Virgoan discernment about what the hell was going on. But most people are getting swept up in the tide, again, of compassion, promoting the tide of compassion, and to the point where if you were not exhibiting a certain kind of compassion, you were meant to feel guilty. You were not doing your role as a compassionate, tolerant, open human being. And so the South Node was getting triggered and exacerbated. Well, now the South Node's coming into Aquarius, and that is going to be the Achilles heel of the masses. And that's what we're going to see. Hey, the moon is in Sagittarius tonight, 23 degrees. Tomorrow, when you get up, that moon will be right there in the galactic center. How about that? We have a Moon-Saturn conjunction. It's already conjunct right now. And with the Moon-Saturn conjunction, we have to be able to speak truth to power. We have to be able to feel our emotions in a lucid fashion. And to have the Saturnian spine in order to share. And unfortunately, that has been removed from a great deal of us. So you're starting off your work week with Moon in Sagittarius. Hey, you can tell people how you feel. Just temper it a bit. And always ask them, this is the big one, would you like to know what I think? Would you like to know what I think? Great. Here's what I think. I think you're really stupid. No. Or I think you're really wonderful. Hey, I've been thinking about where we come from. This is a really important, very simple kind of piece. In many ways, we have been indoctrinated into a Gnostic version of reality. And it's an interesting version of reality that the world has fallen. It is a fallen world, and by only getting in touch with the Creator can we reassemble or remake the world in the Creator's vision. Now, and by the way, in the Gnostic version of the world or the universe, the world ends. Of course, it ends also in the apocryphal version of Christianity as well. There is the thing called Revelation. But the difference between the Gnostics' view of the world and the difference between the Essenic, I like to think of the Essenes as being a real player here, the Essenic version of the world is that everything in the world is holy, and everything in the world is sacred, and everything in the world is alive with numinosity and consciousness in the mind of God. You see, those are two very different versions of the world. And I believe that we have been indoctrinated into the former over and over and over and over again. When you look at the world around you, what do you see? You see a fallen world? Do you see a world where people are angry, self-absorbed, always on the quest for some kind of either ego gratification or some kind of barricade against their own fear and loathing of the rest of humanity? Do you see that? I mean, that version of the world is out there. It is out there. Or do you see the divine? Do you see the sacred? Do you see the golden light in everyone, in everything? And here's the real question. If you do, can you discern the difference between those worlds? And can you discern enough so that you can look and stare that which is not necessarily sacred or divine right in the eye and then redeem it? How about that? That's the toughie. That is the tough one. Because if it's all sacred, if it's all divine, then even evil is sacred and divine. Right? Because it's all part of one Creator. It's true. And I'm not making a push for evil, but it's a big philosophical question. Big philosophy. See, to be able to love somebody or something with discernment takes a lot of work. A lot of work. Then, of course, we can also say, no thanks. No thanks. I'll take my sacred and divine over here. But it's where we come from. It is where we come from in our lives every single day, which determines the world that we inherit and inhabit. Tonight, I had a real brain fart moment, man. I've been driving a long distance, and I parked at my local market up the road. And I was so kind of spaced out from just driving. I'd driven for about an hour and 25 minutes. And I got into the parking lot, parked my truck. I go in, I'm shopping, and I'm trying to get a little this, a little that. And I'm up in the express line, and all of a sudden I hear somebody call my name. Well, it's not my name. Well, they said, is the owner of a yellow Nissan Frontier, can you please come to the front? I'm like, oh, shit. That's my truck. And I knew right then I left it in neutral, and I'd forgotten to put the brake on. And I go up to I had to get out of line. In fact, I even started a transaction. I run my card through and I had to leave, and there were a bunch of people behind me, and they were all pissed off. I'm sorry about that. But I went up to the front desk, and there was a woman there, and she said, oh my God, this is my truck rolling? I said, yeah. So I said, your car okay? First thing I said, your car okay? Yeah, our car's actually okay. I'm like, oh my God, this is kind of like weird and amazing at the same time. And I went out, and there was her husband, and these people were filled with light. They were a family filled with light. You could just see it in their eyes. These were not dead people. And, he kind of stopped my car and he shook my hand. And he says, no, he says, there's nothing wrong with the car. I just kind of rubbed this out a little bit. And then there was a young man in the back seat, probably about my son's age, maybe a little younger. I said, yeah, is he okay? He looks at me and goes, yeah, I'm fine. And I'm like, this is a miracle. This is a miracle, number one, that my truck didn't run into something else because I was so spaced out. And number two, I got this family. And I don't know if they were religious or not. In the moment, it was, I didn't really care what their affiliation was, but they were alive, and these people were filled with light. They were good. It's out there. You just believe it. It's out there. We need it. We need it. But it's different, okay? It's different. I hate to say this, but it's a different kind of belief than blindly signing off on something. Oh, yeah. This is sign off on it. That was grace. Okay, Mercury, 12 degrees, Aries. Let me see if I get the chart of the moment. Let's do this. See, I want to give you visuals tonight. I want to give you visuals. Visuals are important. They're everything and nothing. All right, so let's put up the chart. I just don't want to just riff on this. I want to put up the chart. Okay, here we go. All right. This is it right here. Bada bing. Okay. All right. Wide open. Let's go now. There we go. Hello. Hello. That's our chart of the moment. There's that true node. Finally moving off of that. It's still 3 degrees. Wow. Still 3 degrees Virgo. That critical degree. When the nodes move down here and they're going into Leo, I would say that the anaretic degree is right around, one Virgo. So it's backwards with the nodes. So really, when it comes to the anaretic degree of the 29th degree of Virgo and the true node, it's the best degree. Hello? For Virgo. So here we go. Okay, we've got tonight. We have, as you can see, the moon is in Sag at 12 degrees. There's our Sag moon right there in trine with Uranus. And in a very unusual and very wide kind of trine with Mars. Now, really the trine is very wide with Saturn because Saturn is in a 10-degree orb with Mars, and the moon is getting kind of carried along with the ride. So, of course, we're getting into kind of some Uranian lunar exhortations, radical realization of emotions, and putting them into what? A structured context so that you can move into the world with it with form. That's right. We also have a nice sextile going on with Jupiter, and that'll go. I think you can catch some of that wave in the morning. So when you go to work, you can be a little bit open, a little bit expansive. Sit around the cooler, the coffee machine. Ask people, hey, how was your weekend? What did you do? Be inquisitive. Open them up. Down here, we've got our good old friend, the sun, at the 29th degree. There's the square right there with Saturn. That's interesting. It was really fully in square, kind of Sunday, Saturday. Sun-Saturn square was going on Saturday. Kind of a hard day. Today was kind of a hard day. A little bit, right? Anybody have kind of a tough day today? A little hard day? I felt the energy was a little, I don't know, stiff.
Let's see. We have Venus, Mercury. There they are, right there. Venus retrograding, going backwards.
It's going to slam into the sun. Watch out.
Could get ugly. We have Mars. Where's our friend Mars? Mars is in Taurus.
Strong Mars, sturdy Mars.
Steady Mars. But it did not work for my kid today. It's conjunct his Venus, and he played terribly today in baseball. I felt bad for him. And what else do we have? Here's our friend Pluto right there. Oh, look at that chart of the moment.
Chart of the moment, 0 degrees Sagittarius. I like it. I mean, we're really tapping into some mutable energy right now, aren't we? Look at that. Beautiful mutable energy right here. Sagittarius was spitting the truth.
And Pluto down in the second house, we've got the square with Mercury. Of course, we've got the Uranus square. The square to Mercury, get to it. Not a lot of patience with the Pluto-Mercury square. And sometimes when you find out, when you go beneath the surface, when you've used that kind of, that probing Mercury-Pluto square energy, you get beneath the surface of things. Aries, you want to get to it fast. I mean, a lot of things can happen. I mean, if you really want to get through some muck, some psychic muck, the next few days could be very worthwhile. Very worthwhile. Jupiter is kind of teasing everything, squaring Pluto, opposing Mercury, opposing Uranus. Interesting. Watch out for impulsive behavior with the Jupiter Jupiter opposition. And let's see, what else do we have here? Chiron, there's our friend Chiron. There's the conjunction with the sun. And there's Neptune. Neptune's a little lonely tonight, just the sextile with Mars right there. And there's the true node in Virgo, so the south node is going to be over here, 3 degrees. So we have T-squares on the mutable points, right here and right here. This is just for like right now, because in an hour it'll be different. This is the chart. The chart of the moon. Remember that song, Heat of the Moment, telling me how my heart felt. I heard that song so much. I like that song, though. Passing me by. That was Asia. That was the super group known as Asia. Let's get into some charts. Some other charts besides this one. Since we've sort of gone through a litany of things already. Let us say goodbye to the chart of the moment. The chart of the moment. All right. Let us add a very interesting chart. I want to add the chart of B.F. Skinner because it's his birthday. We're going to look at 3 birthday charts. 3 birthday charts. The first one is B.F. Skinner, the behavioralist. Here's B.F. Skinner, the behavioralist. Okay. So this is the guy that created the Skinner box. This is the guy that got inside people's heads, right? Now, this is interesting. So if you would think that somebody would be kind of a mad scientist, where do you think that they would have the sort of the mad scientist kind of factor in their chart? Well, first of all, Capricorn rising. Now, with all due respect to my Capricorn rising peeps out there, and there are a number of you, and I love you dearly. But Capricorn rising is not the most warm and fuzzy of the rising signs until you get a little bit older. I mean, you get Capricorn rising, you've got to take on a lot of responsibility when you're young. So Capricorn rising makes executive decisions. It can deal with austerity. It's not the warmest of the rising signs. Again, you get older, it gets easier. A little warms you up a little bit.
So we're starting with a Capricorn rising in his chart, which means he was probably carrying on like rat experiments at about the age of, I don't know, 10 or something. You know what I mean? This is what this guy was doing. Then he's got, right here, he's got an intercepted house. And this is an interesting intercepted house. It's kind of a difficult one in some ways. I have a very good client. She doesn't listen to my show, though, so she'll never hear this. But I have a very good client who has this intercepted house right here. And inside of this Capricornian need to achieve on the ascendant and on the other, and then over here with the second house where there's Pisces, and there at times can be a malleable relationship. And one would hope that in Pisces it could be perhaps spiritual, right? I get people, Neptune, second house, they are really, in terms of their material values, they're spiritual. They're spiritual values. That's exactly what they are. Now, here, Aquarius is hidden inside the intercepted house. Now, Saturn in Aquarius can be, especially in the first house, can be really clinical, super clinical. And the way this Saturn is set up, he's got the trine to Pluto and Gemini in the fifth house. It's a little perverse, Pluto and Gemini in the fifth house. I'm just saying. There's not a lot of people out there with Pluto and Gemini still around in the fifth house. So I can say as much as I want about them. Because there's really nobody around. And I doubt if they're listening to my show. It's really perverse, is Pluto and Gemini in the fifth. What happens with kids with Pluto and the Gemini in the fifth? That's what I want to know. So there's the sign trine to Saturn. So he gets money and resources to carry on his Saturnian experiments. Here we have Venus in Pisces, which I actually like a lot. I think, and look at his Venus. It's like, it's trining Neptune, sextiling Uranus. And I believe, whatever B.F. Skinner did with his Skinner cages and behavioralism, I really think that thought he was making the world a better place. I really think so. When you get into that Venus trine to Neptune, and the kind of crazy Venus sextile to Uranus, which is unusual emotions, and kind of, oddly eclectic. I really think he was trying to make the world a better place. At least he felt that way. I think he felt that way. But then the big T-squares are here. Right here. The 29th degree of Pisces squaring off against Uranus here, which is really looking like it's about zero. It's like zero Capricorn, I think. Let me just check. I want to make sure. Pretty sure it's zero Cap. Let's look at that thing. I don't want to be corrected. I don't like that. It's 29. 29 Sagittarius, so it's exact square. It's got Sun, Jupiter squaring off against that, Mercury squaring off against that. And it's ingressing into the 12th house, which is hidden. And that's like the Uranian energy in the 12th house, opposite Neptune in the 6th. So, like, where's the standards? Where's the practices and standards with Neptune in the 6th? And Neptune is the highest point in his chart over here in the 6th house. His dharma, his work, it's very fuzzy. Very, very fuzzy. Now, he did what he wanted to do. He did what he pleased. He's got that moon in Taurus, right? Right there, off into the sextile with Neptune. And even a kind of a wide trine, because it's almost like, zero Capricorn. And the moon is at 4. So he did whatever he wanted. And even with moon in the 3rd house, it kind of splits the moon. It's a bifurcation of the moon because that's Gemini's house, right? So he could be of two emotional mindsets, really. But it's this T-square that is really a trip Because that 12th house, you know that Uranus in the 12th house is kind of freaky. Squaring off against the sun, 29th degree, Pisces. Like, what kind of ethical situations did he compromise himself with here? I think it's in the chart for sure. Mars in Aries, he's gonna do what he wants. That Mars in Aries, he was able to do a lot of his stuff, kind of in secret, I think. Mars trine Saturn, and then you had the Mars Mars sextile Saturn, Mars sextile Pluto. He did whatever he wanted. Absolutely, Mars ingressing into the third house. You know, I've never looked into Skinner as it relates to kind of the MK Ultra stuff, but I wonder if he actually kind of played a role in that. Midheaven is a Scorpio, so he wanted to change the world, right? That's what the midheaven is. It's the world. Scorpio is the transformer, so he wanted to change the world. People of Scorpio midheavens want to change the world. Hello? Guess what? A lot of them have Capricorn. Rising. Yep. So that's B.F. Skinner's chart, the behavioralist. You can see everything right here. This 29th degree, he was dealing with 2 critical degrees. The sun and Uranus. The sun right here and Uranus. I think this guy was a little slippery. Little slippery. What does he have? He's got he had a lot of water. A lot of water in his chart. Interesting. I think he thought he was doing the world a service. Okay, let's look at another chart here. See if we can, I think you'll like this chart. Let's check this out. This is the chart of Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers. Check him out. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Mr. Rogers. So Mr. Rogers has a very interesting chart. This chart is called a tripod. Can you see it? It's not one of the Jones type charts, but it's called a tripod. Taurus rising. And so we think of Mr. Rogers and we think of what? Media. He was one of the pioneers of media. His TV show, how many millions and millions of kids did he reach on that TV show? So we think of his TV show, we think of his persona, which is very kind of, very white bread. We think of his relationship with children. And how many children love Mr. Rogers? So he's a Taurus rising, and he actually conforms to some of the Taurus rising characteristics. Let's look at, what we should do? Let's do this. I want to keep that, hold on. Let's see, here we go. We got 20 people watching. Oh, that's great. Thank you, people. It's the same 20 people, probably. Let's look at an image of Mr. Rogers. And I'll show you where you can see the Taurus rising in him. I should have done the same thing with Skinner, but I'll show you with Rogers. And I'll try to get a younger photo so you can see what I'm talking about here, because it really comes through in the younger photo. Let's see if I can find a young Fred Rogers. Give me 1 second here.
trying to find one of the old black and white images. I'll just use this one. This is a pretty good one right here. Well, no, the resolution isn't that good. Hold on, let me find one more. I apologize. I want to find the perfect Fred Rogers photo, so you know what I'm talking about. Hold on. Here we go. I think this will work. Let's do this. Here we go. Yeah, we'll go back to his chart. I'm going to add another image. You'll see what I'm seeing here. Okay, so we're looking for telltale signs of the Taurus rising. There are a couple of versions of Taurus rising for men and for women. And the two for men and women, well, there are basically two types that are kind of the same for each. For women, there's the classic Venusian Taurus rising. So they look very kind of, goddess-like. They look good. They've got great hair. They're very Venusian, Aphrodite-esque. Of course, Venus is the ruler. Sometimes they're, sort of, Rubenesque, curvy. Sometimes they're big in the chest area, although that's really Cancer rising's domain. So that's the version for women. One version for women. Another version for women is they're more kind of stocky and kind of thick and earthy, and it's like they're the real kind of salt of the Taurus earth kind of person. Even on the masculine side, the men tend to have thick arms and thick thighs. They may not necessarily be that Venusian kind of classic male in that way, but they're sturdy and thick and strong. So these are two versions of Taurus rising. Fred Rogers falls into the male version of Venus in some ways. I mean, he's got great hair, which Taurus rising in men generally tends to have, and he had this hair for his entire life. And his face is very symmetrical. This is almost like a Libra rising face, but it's solid. You can almost do like a rectangle here on his face in terms of his geometry. But so he falls into the camp of this kind of masculine version of Venus. Now, there are some Taurus rising men who are not just having the kind of the thick, dark or thick Taurus rising hair, which he obviously does, thick eyebrows, but they'll also have like the physique, like the Adonis physique, which is sort of the male equivalent of the Aphrodite in the woman. So I just wanted to give you kind of a picture of how Taurus rising in one instance manifests. The thick hair, thick eyebrows, symmetrical face, and then the rectangular face, square jaw, okay? All right, let's get rid of him. Let's go back to his chart. All right, here's his chart. So when we think of children, what do we think? What houses do we think of? We think of what? I think of the third house, Gemini, and I think of the fifth house, which is Leo. And look what he has here. He's got Pluto and he's got Neptune. So he has this kind of Plutonian relationship with communication. That's the third house. Cancer. So theoretically, he's a caring guy. Third house, children, education. Gemini and the third house represent early childhood education. The fifth house is the creative dramatization of the relationship with children. So we have Neptune there, which could be very, very creative. Am I right? Okay. And here we have, at the top of the chart, there's quite a bit of ambition. He was a pioneer in media. There's Mars in Aquarius, right at the top of the chart. Pioneer in media. Now, I don't know what his sexual persuasion was. I mean, a lot of people Not that I really care, but a lot of people thought that he was gay. Now he died in 2003. Wow, I didn't realize that. It's been that long since we've had Mr. Rogers. Let's see, occupation. He had 2 children. Sarah Bird. Married in 1952. And did she die in 2003 like he did? That would be interesting. Hold on, let me see. Just go on here. Death and memorials. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2002. That's all that I have here. So let's get back to his chart. So Mars in Aquarius, he was a pioneer. Mars is pioneering energy. And Aquarius is the waves. He was a pioneer in television with Mars in Aquarius at the 10th house. We can see this. And we can see that he had a long career with the sextile to Saturn in the chart. And he had a very active 11th house, which again is kind of the waves. It's Aquarius's house. It's media. And it's all in Pisces, moon in Pisces. So in an interesting way, he was able to capture the imagination of people, young people specifically. Here's the Neptunian connection down in the 5th house. There's the opposition to Venus, Mercury, Moon. Maybe nobody else but children really got him. Maybe that was it. Maybe this is the Neptune. Either that or he had a deceptive relationship with children, which I don't know. I've never seen any dirt on Mr. Rogers, but clearly a number of people have made very unsavory references now to him, even without even knowing. It's like, oh, this guy's a perv. You know what I mean? But he's got his true node in Gemini. His true node was to connect with young people. Gemini represents youth. It represents youth. And his south node was on Saturn. So he has some kind of almost karmic responsibility here with this opposition. He's very magnetic in his own way. So when you watched Mr. Rogers, weren't you a little hypnotized by him a little bit when he would talk really nice about the children in the neighborhood? Didn't it kind of just lull you? That's the Pluto Moon trine and that Venus Mercury conjunction in Pisces. It's lilting in the 11th house. But he was hidden. He had a very different life than what people saw. And I don't know what this is about. But Sun, Uranus, Jupiter, I don't know. I think Mr. Rogers might have had a very unusual hidden agenda, a hidden life. Scoring Pluto? Wow, that's kind of intense. Do we want to just take knives or sacred cows? I think Mr. Rogers was into some dark stuff. I do. I really do. I'm sorry, but I do. Oh boy. Thought he was great on TV, right? He was great. But you can see the influence right there. Mars, the inconjunct to Pluto. I'm not sure that he really maybe enjoyed what he did all the time. Some people have said that. I didn't really enjoy what he did. That could be the Mars in conjunct with Pluto. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Capricorn rising. Look at that, 26 degrees. He was ambitious. He was an ambitious guy. There was more to Mr. Rogers that we don't know about. I can tell you that right now. Okay, let's move on to our third and last chart of the night, which is a very interesting chart, and I just stumbled across it, quite timely as well, in many regards. Let's do this. So we're going to go one more image here, and then we're going to call it a night because I know everybody's tired and sleepy. Sunday night. So here we go. Hold on. See, I'm so tired and sleepy that I didn't get the chart. Let's do this. Okay, so this is the chart of
1 Barron Trump. This is Donald Trump's son, Barron. This is his chart. It's a very interesting chart. Really interesting. Okay, check this out. First of all, he has what's called a splay chart. And in almost every instance with a splay chart, we have a grand trine, which he does. Now, his sun is at 29 Pisces, and his true node is in Aries. Look at that. So if we were to do his draconic chart, it would be very similar to his birth chart. So when that happens, we have the chart of the soul very much aligned with the chart of the self, which is fairly rare in many instances. So so what's interesting is that his mother is Horus. God, I'm spacing out her name now. But his mother is she's from Croatia or Melania, is Croatia or Serbia. This is my cat. He's moving my chart. Hey, can you stop that, please? She's foreign. She's foreign. He's got a foreign mother. Hello, Moon in Sagittarius, 9th house. And his father also has Moon in Sagittarius. So now Trump's Moon in Sag is closer to here, right around, 21, 22, because he's got Saturn on his moon. He's going through a ton of shit right now with the homeland, obviously. But they both have Sagittarian moons. And his moon is highly elevated in the 9th house. And he has a really interesting, that moon is right at the beginning of Sagittarius. And his sun is at the end, 29 degrees of Pisces. So they're in trine by degree and not element. And here we have Saturn in Leo. Now, Saturn in Leo is right here. Actually, it's Cancer, isn't it? I take that. Well, hold on. It is Cancer. It's hold on. Just make sure. Again, I don't want to screw this up. It's Leo. I apologize. I just couldn't see it clearly enough for this chart. So it's Saturn in Leo, and that's at 4 degrees, which puts it, I'm pretty sure it's, let me make sure again, Saturn, 4 degrees. That puts it in Donald Trump's 12th house. And his Saturn is right off of his Pluto, Trump's Pluto. That's really interesting. So they've got a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Trump's 12th house. He is Trump's hidden pain. That Saturn is Trump's hidden pain. And he's got Saturn in the 5th, which means that he has a difficult childhood. People who have Saturn in the 5th house have difficult childhoods. Even with all that money in the Grand Trine, very close to the mother. Very close to the mother and the father. Look at that. Very close. But he holds his mother in really high regard. Correct? 9th house, highest planet in the chart. But look at over here. Pisces rising, and then Uranus and Mercury conjunct in Pisces. This kid is so freaking psychic. I'm telling you, he may have Asperger's. He may have not Alzheimer's. I'm totally spacing out now. Autism. But he is psychic. Like, I think he takes so much in with this Uranus-Mercury conjunction that his either high degree of Asperger's or his high degree of psychic awareness makes him almost appear Asperger. Look at that, trine to Jupiter, which is retrograde in the 8th house. He's unusual, this boy. He's very unusual. And you know what's terrible? But you can see this. So remember, like after Trump got elected, there were all kinds of really terrible jokes or comments about Barron Trump. And people say, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Why are they like lashing out at this kid? He's a Pisces rising, that's why. And he's a 29-degree Pisces sun. He is at the end of the zodiac. Young Baron Trump is at the end of the zodiac. He's very unique. He's got a Sun-Pluto square. Look at that. And Pluto right up there in the 10th house. Saturn's his dad. It's the sun when you're young. So he's transitioning from the sun in the first house to Saturn. And there's a Saturn-Venus opposition, Saturn-Neptune. He's got Venus and Neptune in the 12th, in Aquarius. Venus-Neptune conjunctions, again, you're dealing with a kind of a degree of psychism, fluidity in relationship. This is institutionalization too. Squaring off against Pluto, trining Mars. Where's his Mars? His Mars is in Gemini. Very active Gemini, right down here in the 3rd house. Squaring, oh boy, poor kid. Mars, Gemini, squaring Mercury and Uranus. He gets too much information. Did the vaccines do this to him? I mean, he was born this way, right? Did he kind of incarnate into this kind of vaccinated, sort of strange telepathy? I mean, but that Mars square to Mercury and Uranus on the ascendant, that's really rough. That's super rough. This boy gets so much information coming at him. I think it's very hard for him to decipher. He might get a handle on it later in life. Maybe. I don't know, there's something very different, very special about this young man. That square, Mars square to Mercury and Mars square to Uranus, boy, that's kind of painful. And the Mars in the 3rd house in Gemini it's almost like that's his father. That is his father. Look at that. So his Mars is at 16 Gemini. I had his father's chart up a little while. Let me see if I can find it again. Let me see. I don't want this. How's everybody hanging in there? Are we hanging in? How's tonight's show? I swear to God, I'll get the video down next week. And I'll put it all together and it'll blow your mind. Okay, so let me go into natal chart ascendant. It's just there. Okay, we're going to go into this chart. And we're going to look. There it is, right there. Okay, so Trump's Uranus is at 17 Gemini, and young Baron's Mars is at 16 Gemini. So his Mars is on Trump's Uranus, which means that it is also, his Mars is on Trump's true node. Wow. In a wide conjunction with the Sun in Gemini, and then Mars-Moon opposition. Mars-Moon opposition. I'm getting some good feedback in the show tonight. It's really interesting, this Mars conjunction on his Uranus. I think if there's somebody who will change Donald Trump, it's not Ivanka, or it's not Jared Kushner. I think it's Barron. I think it's Barron Trump with that Mars on Uranus up in his 10th house, because that's when Trump does a flip, right? He does a flip, and it's Barron's energy. Something about him. And if you look at Barron's planets, they're all over here in the 7th house. Partnership. But it's an unusual partnership for Trump. Interesting stuff. Now, Trump's sun is Mars is at 26 Leo, and Barron's sun is at 29 9 Pisces. So that is, let's see, where is that going to be? 26th Leo would be here. Not quite an inconjunct. Let me just see what else he's got going on here. So it's Aquarius. Yeah, so Barons, Venus in Aquarius and Neptune in Aquarius are in Trump's 6th house. And Trump's Pluto is at 10 and Barron's Venus is at 3. Oh boy. Venus-Pluto opposition. Neptune-Pluto opposition. I wonder if this is really where Trump is going to go after big pharma for vaccines, because he's got something going on. This kid is probably psychic beyond belief. That's what I think. I think he's psychic. I mean, he's a major psychic kid. And I believe it's probably sort of cloaked in or wrapped in his Asperger's. But he's got some challenges with his father. I mean, there's some closeness to the father, right? Because they both have moon in Sag. And when two people share the same moon, they have an affinity for one another. But it's the opposition to Pluto, and then this young man's Saturn on Donald Trump's Pluto. That's big. Mars on Uranus, Saturn on Pluto. He's going to do something to Trump. So right now, Barron Trump is he's 2 years younger than my son. So let's say Trump gets elected again, does another 4 years. So Barron Trump is 11. If Trump is in the White House when Barron is 15 years old, right? So here's Saturn in his chart. And currently, Saturn is here, transiting. So when he goes through he went through the Saturn trine. He went through the Saturn square already. Interesting. So his big Saturn opposition is going to be here in the 12th house. Right there. Of course, that's going to happen right around 21. And that's when I think he probably has a falling out with his dad. But there's something deeply karmic about Barron Trump's Saturn on Donald Trump's Pluto and Barron Trump's Mars on Donald Trump's Uranus, because those are both outer planets. And he has a personal impact. In fact, he's got a karmic impact with that Saturn on Donald Trump's Pluto. That's really interesting. That's very, very, like Donald Trump owes him a debt in a big way. So that's a fascinating chart. Very, very fascinating. A very sensitive young man. Extremely, extremely sensitive young man. And he didn't deserve all that bullshit. Sorry. Just didn't deserve it. Okay, so that's about it for tonight's show. We rocked this thing for close to 2 hours tonight. And we took a real kind of circuitous route, and we got into a lot of imagery and associations. I thought it was good. I apologize for not being able to see me, but you got to see a lot of images tonight with the charts. And if you like this format and you like tonight's show, tell your friends, please. I've got to build up my YouTube base. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a shot at doing a simulcast on YouTube, if I can figure out the live stream part with my radio show. I'll do that tomorrow at 9 o'clock here, Central Standard Time. But if you like tonight's show, tell your friends about it and pass it along, especially if they're into astrology or if they're into kind of meta world events, because I think we covered a lot of ground tonight. All right, let me get rid of these images, and the screen will go to black. And just let me check in really quickly with the people in the chat room tonight. Let's see what they're up to. Let me just see if we got any chat information going on. Hold on. So I've just been focused here.
So nice voice with the reverb, the echo. Seems vaguely Piscean. Good evening, all. Say, Mr. Rogers. Wasn't he a Marine? Uranus series. Okay. Tough month. Maserati. Yeah, Maserati is a trident symbol. Yeah. So yeah, check it out. Let me show you the symbol for Maserati. Since we're just on the Maserati. Let me see here. Yeah, I'll show you in a second. Here we go. Yeah. So this was also just to give you a sense here, because somebody asked about this in the chat room. This was actually making, I think Maserati might have made the engines for the Malaysian planes, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but there's a symbol for Maserati. See, that's the trident right there. The pitchfork of Poseidon. That's exactly what it is. Okay, wanted to end it there. All right, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in to the live stream. It's great, and I hope to get the I hope to really get the imagery or the camera down for next week. So, yes, incredible burst of genius. I agree. Thanks, everyone. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step into what's possible. That is the live stream for tonight.